What's up, Aventis fam? Welcome to the podcast series Aventis Knows. We are now listening to the third episode of this sustainability season. This show is brought to you by Aventis Learning Group, and I'm your host, Jinghan. And if you're an individual who's trying to find your way around the corporate ocean or trying to hashtag up your game with your career, this is where you should be. Over the past 2 decades, sustainability has become more than a fad or just a buzzword. Research has shown that sustainability has real business benefits when conscientiously integrated into business operations. And to simply put it out, businesses all around the world are becoming more sustainable, balancing their fiscal, economic, environmental, and social responsibilities to protect the planet and the people. Although some companies may be pressured by consumers, competitors, and also employees to implement green initiatives into their business model, most sustainable companies are actually driven by purpose and the greater good. So executives and business owners are also actively finding ways to make the necessary sustainability changes while still growing their business and maintaining profit. And we can actually see that sustainability is becoming more important for all companies across all industries. In a research finding, a total of 62% of executives consider sustainability strategy necessary to be competitive today. And another 22% of them think that it will be in the future. So as the expectations on corporate responsibility increase and as transparency becomes more prevalent, companies are recognizing the need to act on sustainability. Now, without further ado, let's bring in our speaker for today, Simarna, co-founder of Coco Veda, to share her expertise as a female entrepreneur. Hi Simarna, welcome to our show.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jinghan. It's an honor to be on the show. I'm really looking forward to it.
Okay, so before we actually start discussing on our topic on sustainability, I think our listeners need to know a bit more about you. So can you share with us what you do on a daily basis and what actually inspired you to start being sustainable?
Sure, absolutely. So, Jinghan, my journey started with sustainability when I was exploring how I could align Cocoveda's business model with the UN SDGs. And since Cocoveda was a social enterprise, and we commit to supporting farmers and women communities, I thought that it was very important to really be aligned to the sustainability journey from the start. And I think there were very, very few youth leaders that were championing this agenda when I had initially started it. And so by coincidence, when I was doing some research, on how to get more involved on sustainability, I came across a page from the UN Global Compact that told me, why don't you apply and be aligned to the SDGs and the 10 principles. And I think that really made my journey very exciting because I was able to ensure that the business model was sustainable, but as an individual, I could actually practice it as well. If I look back, Jinghan, on my journey, I think sustainability for me has actually started even as a student, whether it was me being really passionate about making a change at the Model United Nations or recycling initiatives in school, or building a playground in Thailand. I think that a lot of it was instilled from me and came very naturally to me from a young age.
So how did you become a UN Youth Ambassador?
Yeah, sure, Jinghan. So as shared with you, I actually just happened to come across it when I was doing further research on the 10 principles, and of course to align Cocoveda's business model. So it happened to be that when I was trying to make sure that the business was on the UN Global Compact, I actually saw this opportunity online. And I actually applied for it and didn't have any idea whether I would succeed or not. But it actually came across very positive, and that's how I actually started my journey. It was honestly by chance.
Okay, so for today's episode, we will discuss your journey as a young woman in sustainability. So how would you describe your career in this industry so far? And what are some of your most memorable experiences?
Absolutely. So I ventured into sustainability when I was 19. I'm now 24 years old. So the past 5 years has been a very positive learning experience. I think the first thing I would say is that sustainability, since the pandemic, has gained a lot of traction. And whether it's the government or large multinationals, everybody is headed towards one agenda, which is to action climate change and essentially achieve the net zero. Um, but when I started my journey, Jinghan, there was very, very less interest in sustainability. And I think what really helped me as a youth was social media. It was also learning and sharing knowledge at the same time, videos, any of the podcasts that I did. And I think this network that I built actually really supported me in my journey. So I'll share with you a few memorable experiences. The first one is that I was one of the youngest sustainability consultants at the age of 22 to actually drive sustainability for a large hospitality chain. That gave me a lot of practical exposure. So I was able to actually implement this from ground up. I was also one of the few Singaporean youth that was actually chosen by the UAE government to attend COP25. And that for me was a very prestigious moment. Um, but I really think that at the end of the day, making sure that something is memorable is one thing, but really quantifying impact and sharing how many lives you've changed or shifting a company culture towards sustainability is the key. That satisfaction, Jinghan, that you get, after putting in months of hard work and then suddenly seeing that your dreams have suddenly come true, and I think that memories are built with people. And sustainability also is a collective effort. So I think that the two go hand in hand.
I think that must have felt very nice and very awesome.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
and so for the ladies who are interested in a career in sustainability,
Yeah,
but maybe they are not sure yet, like how to achieve it. So, what advice will you impart to them?
absolutely. So, I think I would share an advice that revolves around the three E's, which is education, exposure, and experience. So, in terms of education, I don't mean academically. I mean actually gaining knowledge in a practical setting. And I think the pandemic is such a good example of how the education system has really shifted. When I started my journey in sustainability, I actually conceptualized a networking platform that was called the Sustainable Relationship Partners, which is known as SRP. It was actually an extension of Coco Veda. So really, what SRP did was to focus on curating different events that focused around different SDGs. With just one main goal, Jinghan, and that was to actually help businesses implement sustainability. Because a lot of the people who attended these networking sessions back in 2017, 2018 had never heard of the SDGs before. So it was very, very new to them. And so for them to actually want to implement it in their business, it required initial education. So we invited like senior sustainability leaders in government, in corporates, and academia who would actually share presentations of their companies and how they're implementing the SDGs, or a panel discussion that we would hold so that there was this two-way exchange as well. But really to differentiate ourselves from other events, I think the key that we focused on was exposure. And we achieved that by having regular networking intervals. So it was a win-win. At the end of the day, let's say you don't understand something of the presentation or the panel, and you want to really build that relationship with the person in front of you. I think those networking intervals really, really helped. And of course, at the end of the day, that's prosperity really in general, right? Um, and then finally, I was exposed to networking from a very young age, and I think this helped me understand the power of relationships and how a lot of my career opportunities or speaking opportunities was actually formed because of this. And I think that brings in the final E, which is experience. So this is just one example of how I've tied the three together, but I think that this is the best way perhaps to answer your question and my journey in general.
So recently, there's a Singapore non-profit society, Women in Sustainability and Environment, WISE for short, and it was launched. So, Sim, what kind of impact do you think it will cause, and how does it shape the future of sustainability?
Yeah, so I've been following Wise for a while as well. I know that they've officially launched in November after the COP26, and probably one of the first women's society in Singapore to have actually formed, which focuses focused on gender action, right, towards the Singapore Green Plan and more specifically SDG 12. So honestly, I think that it is an amazing initiative. I think it's an initiative that will make impact. However, at the same time, I think it's very early for me to share how it will shape the future of sustainability. But I do know that there are many prominent leaders who are on their team, and they've all been championing women empowerment. I'm connected to a few of them for the last couple of years as well. And I look forward to the measurable impact that will come out of WISE.
So, Sim, you mentioned women empowerment. So, how does women empowerment bring progression to our current world?
Sure. As a young woman myself, I think I'd answer this question a little differently. It's sad that even in the 21st century, we need to justify that women are integral to global progression. We live in a world today where we need statistics from McKinsey to prove that if we advance gender equality, we can yield 13 trillion to the global economy. But really, if we speak about the situation we're in today, which is the COVID times, a lot of women are losing jobs, and there are a lot of statistics that already prove that this figure is more than men losing jobs, right? So just to give you a little bit of context, in 2021, there was an article that stated that in 2020, women globally lost 64 million jobs, and that translates to 800 billion loss in income. So really, Jinghan, to answer your question, yes, we need women empowerment, but the reason we need it is because we need a supportive ecosystem to really support one another, share resources, other job opportunities. And I think collectively, if women grow together and progress together, we can actually change the game. So, even by mentoring another woman and sharing your experience, that actually helps them to avoid making the same mistakes as you. So I'm a very strong believer that we need more collaboration and not so much competition, especially to survive in a COVID world. And I think really, really most importantly, I believe that as women, we have potential to yield more than 13 trillion in the global economy. We do have that potential, especially because inequalities have widened so much since the pandemic. We're literally talking about women in developing economies who are below or under the poverty line. So we have a lot of opportunity to make impact in the next 8 years.
So, can you also share with our listeners more about your company, Coco Veda?
Absolutely. So Cocoveda is a Singapore social enterprise. We actually commit to Singapore's Green Plan and 12 out of 17 of the SDGs. Our production actually takes place in the Philippines, so everything is handmade. And we've developed a range of products. So just to give a little bit of insight, facial care, personal care, wellness massage oils, hair care, and each of these categories are actually curated to solve 21st century lifestyle concerns. And the main goal is to address everyone's health and well-being, right? So everything is unisex, even though most consumers would think that it's only targeted towards women. That's actually not the case. Everything, as I mentioned, is handmade by a 100% women team. So we do not have any machinery at Cocoveda. We actually support women to be breadwinners for their families, upskill and train them as well. And we source our virgin coconut oil, which is our lead product, from farmer cooperatives. So our goal really is to uplift them out of poverty from $2 a day to $5 a day. And we do so by paying double the amount of the fruit value to them. So we do not own a farm. We work with farmer cooperatives. And that's how we are a social enterprise. At the same time, each of the products are vegan, they're organic. They're actually a blend of the virgin coconut oil, other plant-based essential oils and extracts. So it's very, very effective in the way that it can be used as well. And I think what really, really identifies us as a Singapore brand is that we are actually supporting Singaporean youth to actually drive our digital marketing initiatives and our e-commerce. So I think that really, really changes the game to ensure that the future generation is actually contributing to sustainability. If I may share one key feature about our products as well, we're actually probably one of the only brands or few brands that actually have a waterless range So our shampoos, body wash does not have any water, and that makes it far more long lasting. So our plastic bottles even are actually extended in terms of the life cycle. It's all recyclable and reusable. And the consumers benefit as well from this production because obviously the product will last longer. And I think since it's all handcrafted, it's very energy efficient because there's very minimal energy that is used, to be very honest.
So, as a co-founder, how do you work about identifying the Sustainability Development Goals, or SDGs for short, that your company can work towards?
Absolutely. So, we identified 12 out of 17 of the SDGs. And a lot of people might think, wow, that's so many of the SDGs. But actually, each one is interlinked to one another. And I think sometimes that is often forgotten. So, just to give you a little bit of examples, when we created the brand, our primary goal was to address health and well being. So, that revolves around SDG 3. Since it's all made by women and 100% women team, of course, this actually ensures that we commit to SDG 5. And the goal for these women or for the farmers that we work with is to ensure decent work and translation of economic growth overall. So that will link to SDG 8. So this is a really quick example of how I've linked the 3 SDGs together. But there is far more other SDGs that you can combine. But at the end of the day, we do recognize that you have to be able to give quantifiable numbers and qualitative data to every SDG that you commit to. So at Cocoveda, just to give you an example, we can measure how many women we upskill. What skills are we providing them with? What was their starting salary before joining Cocoveda? How have we increased that salary since they've joined us? And then, of course, from a farmer's standpoint, like I said, we pay them double the fruit value to uplift them out of poverty. And I think we can track that as the first step. We can track how many farmer cooperatives we work with. And at the end of the day, how many liters have we sourced? So this is just an impact matrix that I'm just quickly sharing with you. But as an FMCG brand, customer feedback is one of our most important validations. And that's where the qualitative data comes into place. So for example, a lot of our customers share that, these products are so long lasting. And, I'm really happy with it because obviously I can practice sustainability, but at the same time, I feel that at least it's value for money. I think there's a two-way aspect that you need to look at. And I think that's because our product range is waterless. So it definitely really does stand out. And we can also validate this from e-commerce today, from their first purchase and their next purchase. So we can understand our consumers' consumption habits as well. So that touches on SDG 12. So this is just an example of how we've actually linked the different SDGs together and the impact matrix that we focus on, Jinghan.
So, Sim, can you also explain to us what does sustainability mean in a business context?
Sure. So in a business context, Jinghan, I would say the best definition for sustainability is to balance the needs of people, planet, and profit. Because at the end of the day, any business needs to make sure that they are profitable. You have your own targets to meet, right? But that does not mean that you cannot make impact. So I think that would be the best definition that I'd share, really, to answer your question.
Then how do you effectively implement a sustainability strategy for your business?
So if I answer this question right, when we started Cocoveda, the first thing that we wanted to do was to do sustainability within its business model. And I think that's very different from most companies because people actually add on sustainability after developing a business, right? So we decided to not do that. And just to share with you some examples, right? So as we scale in volume, we need more jobs for women because we don't have any machinery. So immediately we're contributing to the people aspect, right? From a planet standpoint, we have eliminated water, we have eliminated energy. So again, that's on its own. As we increase our production, of course, we will constantly make sure that we're in line with these. And also to educate our consumers to adopt the circular economy model. And that requires initial education via digital, social media as well. We also need to source, for example, the virgin coconut oil, right, as our lead ingredient. So again, that helps to uplift the farmers out of poverty. We need to expand our campaigns, our PR, our marketing, and that means that more youth will be involved in our social enterprise. So the way that we've done it is that we have not actually added on, right? We will grow as we grow. We'll hire more people. We'll constantly innovate in our business model in terms of the products that we've developed. And I think that that's really how our sustainability strategy is very effective, because it ensures that as you're profitable, you're still making impact. And I think that's the key.
So now before we end our first session on business sustainability, can you please leave us a take-home message for our listeners or any golden rules that encourage you to keep going?
So I think my golden message would be that there is no better satisfaction than to make impact. But you really need to be prepared to be perseverant, patient, and most importantly, passionate. So I look forward to obviously having you all join us for the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi Aventis fam, from this session, we now know that sustainability is a major challenge, one that matters beyond individual companies. But reassuringly, a number of large companies are developing forward-thinking sustainability policies. So it is really becoming clear that sustainability is a mega trend that simply isn't going away. With that, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Aventis Knows Season 6. And stay tuned to our next episode next week to continue to find out more about business sustainability. And if you do have any questions regarding the topic of business sustainability, do drop down your questions in the comment section below or drop us a DM. We're available on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Telegram, and Spotify. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to us for more podcast episodes, and we will see you soon. Bye!